Welcome to Law Next PR, the podcast where we put a spotlight on the latest news coming out of the legal industry. This is Bob Ambrogi, and in each episode of Law Next PR, I interview a legal tech company about its latest news. Today, we're talking about some major news from Billables AI, an AI-powered timekeeping and operational intelligence platform for law firms and other professional services firms. And joining me to discuss the news is the company's co-founder and CEO, Arvind Sujeeth. Arvind, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Bob. It's great to be here. Thanks for having us.
So I'm going to keep listeners in suspense for just a couple of minutes as to the news that you're here to talk about today, because I think it would be helpful if first you laid the background a little bit about Billables AI and exactly what it is you do.
Yeah, we're most well known, as you mentioned, as an AI timekeeping platform. And so what that means is we've been built from the ground up to essentially automatically and passively capture all of the activity that a timekeeper, like an attorney or paralegal, is doing as they're going through their workday, as they're working on documents, as they are sending emails, taking calls, attending meetings, doing research. Our integrations essentially capture that automatically without them starting or stopping a timer or manually tracking anything. And then our AI essentially turns all of that activity into draft time entries that are very close to what a person might have written down themselves. It automatically matches the activity to the right client and matter. It groups it into kind of the right granularity for different cases or for different clients into a single entry. And it automatically generates really sophisticated, compliant narratives that are, in many cases, ready to be sent directly. And then users would review this, approve it, make any edits, and the system would learn constantly from those edits. So, our kind of core AI timekeeping platform is really helping firms save a lot of money or capture a lot of revenue that they didn't have before, because typically lots of this time gets lost, right? Like people just got to forget to write things down or things get lost in the shuffle. And they also tend to be very inconsistent, about it, kind of resulting in more write-offs and things like that. And so that's what our platform is really helping a lot of firms with.
Not only does it get lost, but it's also one of the most hated parts of being a lawyer. Lawyers hate keeping time. I can tell you that for sure.
The quick story, my wife is a partner at a law firm here in San Francisco. And the reason that I started the company was actually because she described timekeeping as the bane of her existence. And she had sort of said, and I didn't know if I believed her at the time, but she had sort of said, like, if you build something that's really comprehensive, really accurate, every lawyer will love you and everyone will buy it. And it's been amazing to kind of see that to be the case. And, there's just, this is probably the most hated, the most hated workflow in legal there is.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of lawyers out there who can thank your wife. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. So the reason we're here today is to talk about a new investment, a new fundraise that you've just announced. Tell us about it. Give us the details.
Yeah, so we're really excited to announce our $10 million Series A. It's led by Avenue Growth Partners with continued participation from our existing investors like Wing Venture Capital, Signal Fire, and Alumni Ventures. And this follows on a $3.9 million seed investment that we had in 2024. And it's just an amazing validation point of the traction and growth that we've seen out in the market, the feedback that we're getting from customers. I think the way that AI timekeeping has really resonated, and like so many of our customers are coming to us and telling us that they're capturing so much more time than they had before, telling us that they're billing faster because they're getting their time in faster, that they're spending less time on timekeeping and billing, and people are way happier, as a result of that. And that's really, I think, driven really amazing growth over the last 2 years. And it's been really cool to see, like in many cases, we're firms' first AI platforms, especially in the operational and business side of law, and sort of seeing the opportunity there to kind of rethink how firms are running in an AI native world.
And Avenue Growth Partners, what made you want to go with them? Tell us about them.
Yeah. So, we met Brian and Diana, a couple of months ago at this point, who led the investment. And part of what we look for in any investor is just what kind of partner are they going to be? Do they have the same vision and kind of conviction about where the world is going and, what Billables could become, over time? And Brian and Diana absolutely did. So that was a huge part of it for us, is that kind of mission alignment. They're a great fund, great firm. We've heard amazing things from, all of the companies that we've spoken to some of the companies in their portfolio, and they're just incredibly supportive and have really invested in some. Their kind of thesis is category defining, vertical software companies, which we strongly believe Billables is really well positioned to be. So it was just a really great fit.
You guys launched in 2023, got my decade wrong, as an automated timekeeping platform. More recently, you're been talking about the platform as this idea of an operational intelligence platform for law firms. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So this is, something that I think over the last year to 2 years, we've just started getting pulled into some of these other directions by our customers as we've gotten in there, working closely with them, starting with AI timekeeping, but then kind of taking a step back and sort of looking at like, what are all the opportunities as AI is transforming the industry to look at different ways the firm is running and how AI can help transform or improve or optimize those. Uh, And, I think first, maybe I'll talk a little bit about the foundation. I think that has allowed us to sort of expand into some of these other areas and then talk about some of the use
Uh-huh.
cases that can come from that. But I think the foundation, it's kind of interesting. If you peel back the covers, sort of underneath AI timekeeping, you take another look at like what's really going on. What's really happening here is we're actually building kind of a new automated system of record for law firms. We're capturing automatically, right, at a very kind of granular detail, every email that's going across the firm, every meeting, every phone call, every research session, every document edit. And we're able to kind of get this visibility, this really detailed workflow, kind of step by step view that really has not existed before. And then we're able to kind of connect that to the firm's sort of core data, like their clients and matters, through our partnerships and integration with practice management platforms. And so on one side, you have these practice management platforms, and the other side, you have these workflow integrations. And our platform is sort of kind of bridging the gap, right, between both of these things. And then the question is like, okay, if you have this incredibly rich, incredibly detailed data of everything that's happening, what does that enable? And if you look at the way that firms kind of historically or traditionally run, it's all based on manual data entry, right? It's based on like timekeeping, putting in what happened, when it happened, client intake, sort of like, okay, kind of manually filing something new, all the way through the whole sort of process of, doing conflicts and then sending an engagement letter, doing the work, sending the bill, collections. That whole pipeline tends to be largely manual, today. Um, there's lots of different aspects, I think that we're kind of starting to help firms with as sort of an AI native approach to this to the business of the firm. But I think three really stand out. One is looking at sort of cost, right? How long does it take to actually do something? How much does it cost to produce a certain piece of work product? Because as you know, like, and this is a really hot topic in the industry, lots of folks are wondering, is the billable hour going to be the right model in the future? Like what's the right way to price work, and how can we better align incentives in a world where AI is helping sort of reduce the time that it takes to do things? I think that that's going to be a huge part. Like there is definitely going to be, changes and evolution there, but that evolution is going to require better visibility and understanding of the cost of doing things, right? And being able to estimate prices. So that's one that we work closely with a lot of our customers using this data to help them answer those kinds of questions. A second one is just understanding bottlenecks, right? What is it, if you're delivering a piece of work product across the firm, how do you break that workflow down into step-by-step pieces? Where do things kind of get slowed down or kind of stuck? Where are there opportunities to automate? And maybe where are there places where like you shouldn't automate, right? And like these are really critical pieces where humans need to kind of be really the decision maker and in the loop. And then the last piece, which I think is really emerging now, and I think is going to become huge over the next, 6 to 12 months, is AI tracking for the practice of law as well, right? We have more and more work product getting, built in conjunction with AI applications or AI agents. And I think from a risk and governance perspective and really just a firm kind of efficiency and profitability perspective, it's really important to understand who's doing what. What is the AI doing? What are the humans doing? If you take a given piece of work product, how did that break down? And I think that's just going to become more and more important the more people are using kind of these tools in their practice.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. I mean, just the cost part of it. There are so many implications for how firms can use that data. I mean, as you suggested, in pricing and in looking at even in evaluating, which of their practice areas are the ones that they should be pursuing and which are the ones that perhaps aren't all that lucrative for them, and in so many other ways. That's really interesting. So, and something I don't think we mentioned is the market that you serve, but your kind of sweet spot is more the mid-sized firm market right now, right? Do I have that right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, our most of our customers, we work with firms of all sizes, everything from solos to pretty large, several hundred attorney plus firms. But our sweet spot is been this mid market, kind of like 30 to 200 attorney firms. It's where we kind of built our core customer base and still work the closest with firms in the segment.
And I know you've integrated with a couple of, at least some of the practice management platforms that are dominant in that market. Centerbase and Litify, I know, are two that you fairly recently, I think, announced and already had others. I think SurePoint, 8 a.m., Clio, LeanLaw, and maybe others that I'm not listing. But so as you're kind of developing out that operational intelligence layer as you're talking about it, is that able to kind of spill over into those matter management platforms that you're integrated with and make use of that data there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're really excited, as you mentioned, to announce recent partnerships with Centerbase and Litify, in addition to our existing partnerships and integrations with Clio, SharePoint, 8am, LeanLaw, and several others that are in the works as well. And I think it's really a great partnership on both sides. There's a lot of things that those platforms are doing, especially on the finance side and kind of the case management side, that we can leverage, but are kind of like work seamlessly together with. And what we're bringing into those platforms that didn't exist before is the automated capture of all of this workflow and activity data, right, across all these different other systems that have been kind of a black box that required, manual data entry in the past. And so with these integrations, with these partnerships, I think what our customers are seeing is the value of having those existing practice management platforms now supercharged with this automated data that's coming in from billables to kind of flesh out and expand that system of record with what we're capturing at a much more detailed way than they ever had before.
So you've raised the Series A. You've got $10 million burning a hole in your pocket. What are you going to do with it? How are you going to? I mean, what is this money going to enable you to do going forward?
So we're, going to double down on this expansion that we've seen from AI timekeeping to operational revenue intelligence across the firm. We think it's an area that's generally a little bit overlooked. There's been so much attention, I think, on using AI for helping folks improve the practice or be faster at generating work product or doing legal research and those sorts of things. And we just think there's an enormous opportunity in kind of this like less sexy, mundane, sort of administrative side of running the business of law firms that is, like I mentioned, just very manual still today. So, we're going to continue to double down on those investments and expanding the use cases and the capabilities of the platform. We're obviously going to grow the team, as we invest in R&D and go to market, continue to expand and deepen our partnerships and relationships with the existing players in the space and existing practice management companies and other legal tech vendors. And, we just believe that the world is moving so quickly that one of the reasons, we wanted to raise a round of this size was just because we think like now is really the time, right? There's a real urgency to the speed at which the transformation is happening and making sure that we can build even ahead of some of the problems that folks are seeing, like in the risk and governance side, just because we think the world in 6 months is going to look dramatically different than it looks now. And in a few years, it may be hard to recognize the way that law firms are operating, given the mixture of AI agents, in alongside humans in the whole organization.
And one of the most common complaints, I guess I will say, that I hear from lawyers about legal tech in general is that often there are multiple choices of products that appear on their faces to do more or less the same thing. And lawyers who are very busy people with a lot on their plates already find it difficult to kind of sort through the differences and make decisions and make choices. And automated timekeeping is one of those areas where you're not the only product on the market. So when you're talking to potential customers, they ask you why you versus somebody else on the market? What distinguishes you? What do you say?
Yeah, and I can totally empathize because it is really hard to tell from the outside, right? There's like all this marketing material. It all kind of looks and sounds the same. Everyone's using like sort of similar terminology. So I get it that it's like really hard, if you're looking at these different things to sort of like say, how do I weigh or evaluate any of these? I think that's not specifically a problem to legal tech or AI timekeeping. I think it's true with all AI products, out there right now. And unfortunately, I think in many cases, the best way to tell is to get your hands on the product, right, and really try them yourselves. So one thing that we've always done is allow pilots. We actually don't charge for our pilots, right? We believe a lot in the product. We want people to get their hands on it, see what it does, sort of see the impact for themselves, because a lot of this stuff is also very kind of like personal, either to a user or to a firm, and like different people have different preferences of how they like their time entries to look, and or how they run the firm and how they make decisions and think about optimizing some of these different things. So I think like I know that requires investment. I know like not everyone can go try everything, but that's probably the best way. I think beyond that, when folks ask us what sets us apart, I think one of the things that I feel very strongly about is like there's lots of different things going on with these products, right? Like security and privacy is table stakes. You must have that. You must have that from the ground up. Otherwise, like it's kind of a non-starter for most people. UX is critical. Like in many cases, it sort of drives adoption and like is the difference between like a successful sort of rollout and a not successful one. Like a product should be intuitive, modern, feel easy to use. And we obviously spend a lot of time on that. But first and foremost, for an AI company, accuracy is king. And this is something that, we are constantly sort of thinking about. I think we're state of the art. I'll put us up against anyone out there in terms of the quality of time entries, the accuracy with which we can match the clients and matters, the way that we can group the entries. And yet we are, constantly, we're never satisfied with that, right? We're always sort of looking back and seeing like, what else can we do? What other signals can we add? What other systems can we layer on to continually optimize? What other models can we bring into the mix or agents can we build so that people can get the best possible answer with the least amount of revisions? And our team is a very technical team. I did my PhD at Stanford in AI and machine learning. Our entire team has been working in AI and ML long before ChatGPT. Actually, back when it was called ML and machine learning, before it was called AI, and before it was called ML, it was called AI. So we've kind of come full circle there. But we just bring like I think that's one of the differences with us is we're bring a very long kind of history in AI and ML to the space. And I think that shows up, right, in kind of the quality of answers and the accuracy that we're able to bring. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff. I mean, we've always been built on a kind of an integration first platform. So from a privacy perspective, our desktop application is just another integration, right? We're never blanket monitoring your screen. And that's something that we've heard is really critical, really important for a lot of users. But yeah, I think that's kind of the key thing. And when you think about it, not even from the perspective of timekeeping, but from the perspective of that automated system of record and really rethinking, right, how AI can be used to run the firm, that accuracy is kind of everything, right? Like you need to be able to get to the best possible answer with the least amount of human intervention. And the difference, which sometimes goes overlooked, is like what's the difference between 80% and 90% accuracy? Well, that might mean you have to review or edit 2 out of every 10 entries instead of 1 out of every 10, right? Or 2 out of every 10 entries gets flagged for noncompliance instead of 1. I mean, you're talking about thousands or tens of thousands of dollars in real ROI
Right.
from that difference.
Yeah. If you don't have accuracy, the rest of it just doesn't matter as much.
Yeah. And that's probably the hardest thing to tell from the outside too,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Got to try it. All right. Well, is there anything else that you would like people to know about this announcement today that we haven't had a chance to talk about?
I think mainly just how quickly not only the world out there is changing, but Billables itself is changing. The platform is changing. The velocity that we've released new capabilities, new features is pretty amazing. I mean, some of that obviously has been powered by some of the agentic software engineering developments and kind of the new tools that are able to help small startups like us move really, really fast. But if you haven't checked us out in a while, or if you haven't, seen us and you sort of think of us as kind of just an AI timekeeping company, and you might say that we like the way that we keep time, or that, maybe we bill flat fee, or we're moving away from hourly billing. So this is not not really relevant to us, I would say come chat with us. You can reach out to me personally. You can reach out to us at hello@billables.ai. I think you'll be surprised by the number of things that we're doing and the number of ways in which firms today are actually using billables to understand, everything that's happening in the firm, rethink those pricing models and those billing models, understand how and where AI is helping and is not helping, and all of these different aspects of kind of rethinking the back office that I think apply to every law firm out there of every size. So, yeah, I think AI timekeeping was the start, but I think the opportunity, the potential here, and what we are currently doing from our customers has already really expanded so much beyond that. And we're really excited for what the future is going to bring here.
Well, Arvind, thanks so much. Congratulations on this notable milestone. A raise. We'll stay tuned to continue to follow your evolution. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks so much, Bob. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
That does it for today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, or you can find us on YouTube at LawNext_PR. This is Bob Ambrogi.